I stood in the doorway of my brother's pristine suburban home, holding a bakery box with his daughter's favourite mango cake. The March sun warmed my back, but something cold settled in my chest the moment I stepped inside. "Auntie!" 7-year-old Lily ran toward me, arms outstretched. Before she reached me, my brother's wife, Vanessa, swept her away with a practiced move that looked casual but felt deliberate. "Lily, sweetie, go play in your room. The adults need to talk." My brother Marcus stood in the living room archway, his expensive suit still crisp despite the late hour. At 45, he looked every inch the successful corporate lawyer he'd become. His jaw was set in that particular way that meant he'd been stewing about something for days. "I'm glad you're here," he said, but his tone suggested otherwise. "We need to discuss boundaries." I set the cake box on the entryway table, keeping my voice light. "Boundaries. I brought Lily's favourite cake for her birthday tomorrow. Is that crossing a line?" Vanessa laughed, a sharp sound like breaking glass. "It's not about the cake, though honestly, she's watching her sugar intake now. It's about your constant need to insert yourself into our lives." The words hit like a slap, but I'd learned long ago not to show pain. I straightened my shoulders, meeting her gaze directly. "I see Lily once a month. I'd hardly call that constant." Marcus stepped forward, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before when he looked at me. Contempt. Pure, undiluted contempt. "You really are something else, aren't you? Living off the scraps of our family, always showing up with your little gifts, reminding us that you exist." The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. "Living off scraps? Marcus, what are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb." Vanessa moved to stand beside her husband, a united front against me. "You're nothing but a leech. You've been riding on my husband's success for years, basking in the glow of what he's accomplished, when all you are is a high school dropout with no real achievements of your own." The room went very quiet. I could hear the grandfather clock in the hallway ticking, each second loud as a gunshot. "A high school dropout," I repeated slowly, tasting the words. They were true, technically, but the truth without context is just another kind of lie. Marcus crossed his arms. "Face it, sis. You peaked at 17. I don't know why you keep showing up here trying to play the devoted aunt, when everyone knows you're just jealous of what we've built." Something inside me, something that had been compressed for 33 years, began to expand. It filled my chest, pressed against my ribs, demanded space. "Do you remember," I said quietly, "why I dropped out of high school?" "Does it matter?" Vanessa's voice dripped with disdain. "Plenty of people face hardships and still manage to finish school. It's called determination. I dropped out 3 weeks after our parents died in that car accident." I looked directly at Marcus as I spoke. "You were 14. I was 17. We had no other family, no safety net, nothing but a falling apart apartment and 2 months of rent in the bank." Marcus's expression didn't change. "That was 30 years ago. Are you still using that as an excuse?" "An excuse?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "I worked double shifts at a diner while you did your homework. I learned to forge Mom's signature on your permission slips. I sold everything we owned that had any value, including Mom's engagement ring, to keep the lights on." "You chose to do that," Vanessa interjected. "No one forced you." I turned to her, really seeing her for the first time. The designer handbag on the counter, the custom kitchen cabinets that cost more than I made in 6 months, the casual cruelty in her eyes that came from never having wanted for anything. "You're right," I said. "No one forced me. I could have let the state split us up. I could have let Marcus go into foster care while I finished school. That was the other option." "Plenty of kids survive foster care just fine," Marcus said, his voice cold. "Maybe I would have been better off. Maybe I wouldn't have had to spend my whole adult life feeling guilty about someone who martyred herself for me." The word martyr landed like a physical blow. I steadied myself against the wall, my fingers finding the smooth, cool surface. "Is that what you think?" My voice came out steady, almost curious. That I did it for gratitude? For guilt? What else would you call it? Vanessa moved to the sofa, sitting with elegant precision. You made choices that didn't work out, and now you show up here, hovering around the edges of our success, waiting for… what? A thank you? Recognition? I looked at my brother, searching his face for any trace of the boy I'd raised. The boy who used to fall asleep with his head on my shoulder while I studied for my GED after my diner shifts. The boy who cried when I couldn't afford the class trip to Washington, D.C. until I picked up a third weekend job and surprised him with the permission slip and a new backpack. Do you remember, I asked him, when you got accepted to Princeton? His jaw tightened. Of course I remember. Do you remember how you got there? I earned a scholarship, full ride, because I worked hard. You earned an academic scholarship that covered tuition, I corrected gently. I worked 3 jobs to cover your room and board, your books, your lab fees, your winter coat, because you couldn't go to New Jersey with just the thin jacket we had. I worked every Christmas break, every spring break, every summer, because that scholarship didn't cover living expenses. You're exaggerating, Vanessa said dismissively. Princeton has need-based aid, which required a parent or guardian's financial information, I replied. And since I was only 20 when Marcus started college, I didn't qualify as his legal guardian for financial aid purposes. We were stuck in a bureaucratic gap. So yes, I worked. I worked so hard I developed stress fractures in both feet from standing on them 16 hours a day. Marcus's face had gone slightly pale, but his voice remained hard. Even if that's true, it doesn't give you the right to hold it over my head for the rest of my life. I have never, I said, each word deliberate and clear, asked you for anything, not once in 30 years. Your presence is asking for something, Vanessa snapped. Your constant reminders of the past, your sad little life that makes my husband feel guilty every time he sees you, that's asking for something. I turned to face her fully. Tell me, Vanessa, did Marcus ever mention a man named David Chen? Her perfectly shaped eyebrows drew together. Who? Before our parents died, I was dating someone. David Chen. We'd been together 2 years. He was planning to propose the week after graduation. So what? Vanessa examined her manicured nails. High school relationships rarely last anyway. David's father owned a tech company. Small back then, but growing, David was going to Stanford. He wanted me to come with him. Get married. Start our life together. For the first time, Marcus's certainty seemed to waver. You never told me that. You were 14 and grieving our parents. What was I supposed to say? Sorry, kid, I'm choosing my boyfriend over raising you. The clock ticked. Somewhere upstairs, Lily's music played faintly. David waited, I continued. For 3 years he waited. He'd visit when he came home from school. He'd bring you books, Marcus. Do you remember the encyclopedia set you loved so much? The one you told your 9th grade English teacher changed your life? Marcus's face had gone from pale to grey. Those were from David. He loved me enough to wait, and I loved you enough to let him go. That was your choice, Vanessa said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. Yes, it was my choice. Just like it was my choice to work myself into exhaustion. Just like it was my choice to skip meals so you could have lunch money, Marcus. Just like it was my choice to sleep 4 hours a night for 8 years straight while you went to college and then law school. Law school? Marcus's voice cracked slightly. I had loans for law school. You had partial loans. Who do you think covered the rest? Who do you think paid the deposit on your first apartment? Who do you think bought your first interview suit? You said that was from Mum's life insurance. There was no life insurance. Mom and Dad lived paycheck to paycheck. I took out a loan against my own future, such as it was, to make sure you had everything you needed to succeed. Vanessa stood abruptly. This is emotional manipulation. You can't just show up here and… I'm not manipulating anyone, I'm stating facts, but I am curious about something. I pulled my phone from my pocket, scrolling to a specific email. Did you know that Marcus's firm is currently bidding on a major contract with Chen Technologies? Marcus's eyes widened. How do you know about that? That's confidential. David Chen is now the CEO of Chen Technologies. It's grown quite a bit since the 90s. I believe the contract you're pursuing is worth about $12 million to your firm. The room went silent. Vanessa looked between Marcus and me, confusion replacing her contempt. David called me 2 months ago, I said. We've been reconnecting, talking about old times, about choices we made, about roads not taken. You wouldn't, Marcus breathed. You wouldn't sabotage my career over this. I looked at him for a long moment, letting him sit with the fear. Then I smiled, and it felt strange on my face, like a muscle I'd forgotten how to use. Of course I wouldn't. Despite what you apparently think of me, I would never hurt you, Marcus. Even now. Even after this. Vanessa's face flushed red. Then why bring it up? Why mention this David person at all? Because this morning, David asked me to marry him, and I said yes. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Marcus sat down heavily on the nearest chair. You're getting married. 30 years later than originally planned, but yes. David never married, never stopped loving me. He built his company, he traveled the world, he became successful beyond either of our teenage dreams. And he told me that every single day he wished I was beside him. That's very romantic, Vanessa said tightly, but I don't see what it has to do with... I told him about you. I looked at Marcus. About tonight, actually, about how you see me. He was surprised. He remembered all those visits, watching you grow up. He remembered thinking what a bright kid you were, how proud I was of you. Marcus's hands were shaking. He clasped them together, but I could still see the tremor. David suggested, I continued, my voice perfectly calm, that I cut ties with you entirely, that I start my new life without the weight of an ungrateful brother and his cruel wife dragging me down. Please, Marcus whispered, and that one word contained more emotion than anything else he'd said all night. But I told him no, because despite everything, despite this, despite how you've made me feel tonight, you're still the 14-year-old boy who couldn't sleep without the hallway light on after Mom and Dad died. You're still the kid who cried when he got his Princeton acceptance letter because you wished they were alive to see it. Tears were running down Marcus's face now, silent and steady. I told David that I would give you one chance, one conversation, because maybe, just maybe, you didn't understand what you were saying. Maybe Vanessa's influence had clouded your judgment. Maybe you needed to be reminded of where you came from. I walked to the door, picking up the cake box. But I also told him that if you couldn't find it in yourself to treat me with basic respect, then yes, I would walk away. Because I spent 30 years sacrificing my own happiness for yours, I'm not doing it anymore. Wait, Marcus stood, his expensive suit rumpled now, his power tie crooked. Please wait. I turned back, my hand on the doorknob. I'm sorry, his voice broke. God, I'm so sorry. You're right about everything, every word. I've been so focused on forgetting where I came from, on being successful, on proving I was worth something that I forgot who made it all possible. Your wife helped you forget, I said quietly. Vanessa's face was blotchy, her composure finally cracked. I didn't know. Marcus never told me the full story. He just said you'd helped out when your parents died. I thought you were just hanging around, expecting gratitude for doing the bare minimum. The bare minimum? I tasted the phrase. Is that what you call raising your orphaned brother from 14 to adulthood while working yourself into early arthritis? She looked away, unable to meet my eyes. I need you both to understand something, I said. I am not a saint. I am not a martyr. I am a woman who made choices based on love, and yes, those choices cost me. They cost me my education, my first love, my youth, my health. But I made them freely, and I don't regret them. Then what do you want from us? Marcus's voice was ragged. Respect. Basic human decency. An acknowledgement that my life has value even if it doesn't look like yours. And for your wife to stop treating me like I'm something she stepped in on the sidewalk. Vanessa flinched but said nothing. I'm getting married in 3 months, I continued. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. David would like to meet you properly, Marcus. He wants to know the man you became. But that's only happening if you can find a way to see me as a person, not as an embarrassing reminder of poverty and sacrifice. I do see you, Marcus said desperately. I do. I've been an ungrateful, selfish, blind idiot. Yes, I agreed simply. You have been. He laughed, startled, and it broke the tension slightly. I don't expect you to apologize every time you see me, I said. I don't want groveling or guilt. I just want what I've always wanted. A relationship with my brother, a chance to know my niece, to be part of a family. You have that, Marcus said. You've always had that. I'm the one who forgot. I looked at Vanessa. And you? She met my eyes finally, and I saw something like shame there. I judged you without knowing anything real about you. That was wrong. I'm sorry. It wasn't a perfect apology. Her voice still carried defensiveness. And I suspected her pride was as bruised as her conscience, but it was a start. Lily's birthday party is tomorrow at 2, I said. I'd like to come, if that's still okay. Of course it's okay, Marcus said quickly. Please. She asks about you all the time. She loves you. Then I'll see you tomorrow. I opened the door, letting in the cool evening air. Wait, Vanessa said. The cake. You should leave it. For Lily. I looked at the box in my hands, then back at her. Something in her expression had shifted, become more real, less polished. She can have a small piece, Vanessa added. You're right. It's her favourite. I set the box back on the table. Thank you. As I walked to my car, I heard the door close behind me. My hands were steady on my keys, my breathing even. 30 years of holding everything in had taught me control. But tonight, I'd finally let some of it out. My phone buzzed. A text from David. How did it go? I typed my response carefully. Better than expected, worse than hoped. Exactly what was needed. His reply came instantly. I love you. Come home. Home. For 30 years, home had been wherever Marcus needed me to be, a succession of cheap apartments, each one a stepping stone to his success. But now I had David's townhouse in Pacific Heights, with its view of the bay and its quiet, book-filled rooms. Now I had a future that was mine. I started the car, but before I pulled away, I looked back at Marcus's house. Through the window, I could see movement. Marcus and Vanessa standing close together, talking. His hands gestured emphatically. Her head was bowed. Whatever they were saying, whatever they were working through, it was theirs to navigate. I'd said my piece. I'd drawn my boundaries. The rest was up to them. The drive to David's place took 40 minutes. When I arrived, he was waiting on the front steps, just like he used to wait for me after school 33 years ago. Some things, apparently, were meant to circle back. You look tired, he said, pulling me into his arms. I am tired, but I'm also free. He understood immediately. He always had. Inside, we sat in his study and I told him everything, every word, every look, every moment of the confrontation. He listened without interrupting, his hand warm in mine. Do you think he'll change? David asked when I finished. I don't know, but I know I've changed. I spent 30 years being the woman who sacrificed everything. Now I get to be the woman who chose herself. And if Marcus can't accept that, I thought about it, really considered it. The idea of losing my brother completely made my chest ache. But the idea of continuing to diminish myself for his comfort made it ache worse. Then I'll grieve that loss and move on. I've earned the right to move on. David kissed my forehead. Yes, you have. That night, I slept better than I had in years. No dreams of rushing to make ends meet. No nightmares of bills unpaid or promises broken. Just deep, restful peace. The next afternoon, I arrived at Lily's party with a new gift. David had helped me pick it out, A children's encyclopedia set, updated for the modern age. When I handed it to Lily, Marcus saw it and went very still. "Like the one David gave me," he said quietly. "Like that one," I agreed. He pulled me aside while Lily tore into her other presents. "I told Vanessa everything last night, the whole story. She cried for an hour. I'm not looking for her tears, I know, but she needed to understand. We both did." He paused, struggling with words. "I'm going to do better. I know that's not enough, and I know I have to prove it, not just say it, but I'm going to try. That's all I ask." Vanessa approached us, tentative in a way I'd never seen her. "I wondered if you and David might want to come for dinner next week. A proper dinner, where we can start over." I looked at her carefully. "Why?" "Because I was wrong about you. Because my daughter deserves to know her aunt. Because—" She trailed off, then found her courage. "Because you deserve better than what I gave you." It wasn't friendship, not yet. But it was possibility, and possibility was something I could work with. "I'll check with David," I said, "but yes, I think we'd like that." 3 months later, I walked down the aisle in a simple ivory dress toward a man who'd waited 30 years for me. Marcus gave me away, tears streaming down his face. Vanessa cried too, sitting in the front row with Lily on her lap. At the reception, Marcus gave a toast. He talked about second chances and delayed happiness. He talked about the sister who'd raised him, the woman who'd sacrificed her own dreams so his could come true. He talked about finally understanding the difference between success and worth. When he finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then David stood and raised his glass. "To family," he said. "The ones we're born with and the ones we choose. And to the woman who taught us all what love really means." "To family," everyone echoed. I looked around the room. David beside me, his hand in mine. Marcus and Vanessa learning to be better. Lily giggling with her cousins. And somewhere, I like to think, Mom and Dad were watching, proud of both their children. I'd spent 30 years climbing a mountain for someone else. Now, finally, I was standing on a peak of my own, and the view was magnificent.